Welcome Algebra 2. In this video, let's just go ahead and get started right away because I'm tired. It's 9:20 p.m. on a Wednesday and I still got a lesson plan to give y'all work to do tomorrow, alright? So, let's get started on this. So, write the simplest equation given the roots are 1, -5, and 2i, right? So you would think naturally, and this would naturally, for me, when I first was doing this, I naturally thought, well, the roots are 1. This is going to be x minus 1. This is -5, so x plus 5 and x minus 2i. And this is actually incorrect. This isn't the right equation for this, right? And so in order for you to show you why we're not done with this problem, we need to first look at this example. Let's say we have x squared plus 4 is equal to 0. And we want to solve this equation. Well, we subtract 4 to both sides. We're going to get x squared is equal to -4. We take the square root. When we take the square root, we can't forget a plus or minus. This is so huge, right? And we're going to get x is equal to plus or minus. Well, this is the same thing as the square root of -1 times 4. X is equal to plus or minus the square root of -1 times the square root of 4. This is going to be x is equal to plus or minus, well, I times 2. Right? This is imaginary numbers, plus or minus 2i. So if you notice, okay, I want us to focus on this part right over here, right? When we take the square root of -4, so I want us to just focus on this part right here. X squared is equal to -4. When we take the square root of both sides, we're going to get a plus or minus, right? And so the only way that we can get I, which is a complex root, this imaginary number, the only way to get that is when we take the square root of -1. So if we're going to get a root, let's say we have a root, which is 2i, without a doubt, by default, that means we also must have -2i. Okay? They come in pairs. There's no way we could just have a positive 2i because when we take the square root, we always get a plus or minus. So that's why this question up here, write the simplest equation given the roots, is kind of a trick question, because if one of the roots is 2i, that means that there should also be -2i. Because you can't get a 2i without the -2i, which is what we just saw right here, the plus or minus 2i. So we would be needing one more term, which is x plus 2i. And this would be my final simplest equation, all right? So let's go ahead and look at another example like such right here. So let's go ahead and say, write the simplest equation given the roots are 3, 2i, let's say 3i, and 2 plus 3, and we'll have the square root of, I'm going to write it over here because this doesn't give it nicely. So let's go ahead now, go back real quick here. Square root of of 5. All right. Write the simplest equation given the roots are 3, 3i, 2 plus the 3 square root of 5. So what this means, right, is, and I'll go ahead and approach it like this. That means my roots are x is equal to 3. We're going to get x is equal to 3i. But remember, we just talked about this. The only way you can get I is when you take the square root. So we're also going to get a -3i. Over here, we're going to get x is equal to 2 plus 3 square root of 5. But again, this one is also very similar to this right here, right? Well, if we have a square root, when we were solving the equation, that must mean that we should also have gotten a plus or minus, right? So that means that this one should also have 2 minus 3 square root of 5. Again, anytime we're involving square roots, we should have a plus or minus. And so now that we've labeled all our roots, we can now write it into its factored form. And so we're going to get y is equal to, well, x minus 3. And then x, well, this is positive 3i, so we're going to get minus 3i. Over here, we're going to get x, well, this is minus 3i, so it's going to be positive 3i. Now we do the same thing over here. This is positive 2, so we're going to get x minus 2. This is positive 3 square root of 5, so we're going to get minus 3 square root of 5. And then over here we're going to get x, well now doing this one here, is minus 2. And then since this is negative 3 square root of 5, we're going to get plus 3 square root of 5. Alright, so therefore, if a question asked you, what is the degree? What is the degree? Well, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different factors, which means the degree would be 5. Right? That means that the highest exponent on our equation, right? We would have something like ax to the 5th power, and then I don't know what these numbers are. That's why I put a, and then we'd have something like plus bx to the 4 plus cx to the 3rd plus dx squared plus cx plus e, right? That would kind of be the equation, and we know it should be degree 5. Okay, hopefully that helps. Have a good one.